your own memory and for us here, how did that first few minutes in that meeting go?
Well, the first 2 or 3 minutes were the usual courtesies of people who talk about what they'd done in January. And I realised, of course, that when I'd phoned him earlier, I'd interrupted his holiday with his children and so on. So we just talked about that. And then he got to the point very quickly. And he said, I'm here because the attorney has asked me to seek your resignation.
So he used the words "seek your resignation."
I'm absolutely certain that the word resignation, that would like your resignation or seek, I don't remember what the
word
preambular words were, but resignation was absolutely crystal clear to me. And then I asked why, and he said, because the attorney has lost confidence in me, and I said, why? So, but that proceeded nowhere because he didn't have a reason. And so I immediately said that I categorically rejected that suggestion, that I was appointed statutorily for 5 years, and it would be damaging to the Commission, damaging to the role of the Commission within the democratic process, and very, very negative were I to accept that suggestion. So it was absolutely clear that that was the response I gave.
At what point was this, quote, specific role raised?
Very soon in that. I think it may even have been that when it was first mentioned that my resignation was being sought, that this alternative opportunity would be available. So it was within seconds of that it was mentioned.
And did the Secretary explain to you what this specific role was?
No, he didn't, but we both knew the topic and the issue that would use my skills in that area of law. And
was it your understanding that this role would be made available to you if you were to resign?
Yes.
How clear was the Secretary about that offer?
Well, he didn't say any more than that because I so categorically and immediately rejected it. It was such an outrageous suggestion that I would denigrate the Commission and my role, the statutory independence of the Commission, by accepting some other job was such a disgraceful proposition to me that I was really, frankly, quite angry. But as the Secretary has quite accurately said, there was really nothing more to say. He wasn't surprised. I think he knew perfectly well I would reject it. But he was, I think, he even said to me that he was rather embarrassed at having to make this, that he wanted to extend the courtesy to me of getting on a plane and doing it personally, for which I thanked him very much indeed. If I may say, he conducted the hour interview with very considerable professionalism and dignity. He didn't say or do anything that he shouldn't have done. He didn't engage in any excursus. He stuck to the point. But he was very embarrassed by it, and he said we both essentially agreed that he was doing his job and I was doing mine, and we both parted pretty much on that basis.
Did he use the words embarrassed?
Look, I think he did, but I wouldn't I swear to that. But something that he felt very awkward or embarrassed at doing it. I can't precisely remember the word.
With an understanding that he knew.
But he knew very well that this was an awkward thing for him to do. And it explained in part also why he didn't do it by telephone, although equally, of course, the attorney could have done it by phone as well. But I felt that he was trying to do professionally what he felt was the best he could do in a very awkward and difficult situation.
Can I ask you, did you take away from that meeting a sense of what would happen if you didn't comply with the Attorney-General's request that you resign?
No, I didn't. I mean, there were no sort of follow-ups to that. It was just, again, as I said, the Secretary was very professional. He just accepted that that was my answer, and he would take it back to the attorney. I mean, I obviously gave some thought to what the consequences of this were, because negative remarks have been made about my findings and recommendations in other reports to Parliament by the Prime Minister and by the Attorney in the public arena, as well as by a senator from this committee, so that there was a building crescendo of public remarks about the work of the Commission. And so it was obviously very troubling for me, because anybody in my position, particularly a public servant, would say, well, in those circumstances, it becomes impossible to work effectively. I would only bring a disopprobrium, or I would bring difficulties to the future of the Commission, and that maybe one thing I would need to consider was to resign as I'd been asked. But in my mind, I rejected that on the basis that to do so would be to give in to the very pressure that the position was designed to stop. And so I took the view in the end that I would maintain the position that I'd maintained as an instinctive reaction to the Secretary's request to me to resign.
Thank you. Secretary, can I ask you, did you feel awkward about having to have that conversation when you knew, as you've already given in evidence, what the result would be, or what the response from Professor Triggs would be?
Senator, I was not embarrassed, but that's probably Professor Triggs' impression of me. I was unhappy with the situation. As I've said many times to Professor Triggs, my interest is ensuring the Commission can fulfil its functions. And frankly, I was asked to convey those points that I've said, that the attorney lost confidence. If I may say so, I never said, I never sought resignation. I did not use the word resignation ever.
But it was very clear that that is what the end result would have to be if she was to take the other role.
That was one option, as I've said.
What is the other option?
To remain where she is as chairperson and to fulfil her function as chair.
The offer that was put was on the basis that she would resign. Hansard can't see you shrugging, I'm sorry.
Well, as I said, it was one option was resignation, and that was one of the options that could emanate from the fact that the attorney asked me to convey to her that he'd lost confidence in her, and that was the express language I used, Senator.
Mr. Secretary.